Hello, this is the Essential Concepts for Printing and Prepress video, part 1. In this video here, we'll be discussing the CMYK color builds and spot color and basic color separation concepts. These other 5 items will be discussed in video 2, and the last 2 items, halftone screens, will be discussed in a third video. So basically, to get started is to understand color models, and what CMYK printing does compared to what we're used to seeing on our video screens. So there's 2 color models. One is the subtractive color model, and the other is the additive color model. The additive one is the one we're mostly used to because we look at a lot of screens. The additive is the RGB model, and that's on the right, and that is that's light. That's where the colors are. The color source is light. So anything that emits light is the RGB additive color model. So your phone, your computer monitor, your laptop, a projector, a digital camera, anything that emits light will use this model to create colors. And the way that works is that when you add color wavelengths from the red, green, and blue wavelengths together, you create more colors and you build up to white when you add them all together. The other one is the one that we pretty much learned when we were in kindergarten making paintings, and that's the subtractive color model, and that's with pigment. So that's using physical pigment, which, yes, it reflects light, but the pigment is what makes the color. And in this way, this is what we're used to when we learned that, yellow and blue make green. That when you add colors together, they form different colors. But when you add them all together, it forms a mucky brown or potentially black if you add enough of them together. So it's good to know the difference. And so when we're working with the images on our computer, we're looking at the RGB light additive model. But then when we're printing, we need to switch it to the CMYK subtractive model for pigments. And it's kind of cool how they're opposite, So, take a look at those diagrams and marvel at their uniqueness. Okay, so to get started, when we're printing, you print with inks. And CMYK printing, if I just step back to this one here, there's cyan, magenta, and yellow. The magenta is really like a pink, the cyan is a light blue, and the yellow is yellow. The fourth color, K, is black, and that's the fourth ink. But a spot color is a pre-mixed ink. So it would be one ink that could be green, instead of CMYK, where you have to add 2 inks to make green. In a spot color, you get 1 ink. There's some text here. If you want to pause the video, you can read it, but I'm going to move forward here. But basically, spot color is really helpful if you want to print consistent color or limited amount of color. So 4-color process printing. It's 4 inks. There's 4 colors, CMYK. So it's got many different names. It's called process printing, 4-color printing, 4CP, CMYK printing. So they're kind of all interchangeable names. But basically, that's the way that you're going to get your color photographs. You're going to get graphics with lots of color depth and shading and tinting and drop shadows and any subtle color differences. You're going to want to use 4-color process printing. So the advantage there is that gives you, you just have the 3 colors plus black to create any number of images. Oops, sorry. To create any number of photographs, graphics, and so on, you're only using 4 inks. With spot color, if you were to use 4 inks, you'd be limited to what you could print. You wouldn't be able to reproduce a photograph, so to speak. So it's advantageous to use CMYK if you're doing any just general full color work. The disadvantages to that is that that the mixtures, so to get green or to get a purple, mixing the cyan and magenta to get purple, that mixture is a fine balance to get that exact same purple. So to reproduce that same purple on 2 different presses or on one day versus the next day, there can be some variation. So CMYK printing does have a lot of color variation in it, especially with the mixed colors like purples and rich greens. So that's a disadvantage to CMYK printing. Also, the colors are kind of limited. There's only so many colors that you can print. If you want to do anything with neon colors or metallics, fluorescents, or a wider range of colors, you would have to involve spot colors. So this here shows us a breakdown of this logo being printed in CMYK. You can see the blue, the cyan, the magenta, the yellow, and then the black, and you add it together and you get that awesome graphic there. Versus the same logo done in spot color. This is just 2 colors here, so you can see there's 2 inks, and that's a lot cheaper because it's less ink. It runs on a different press, a smaller press with only 2 ink bays compared to a 4-color press, so it's cheaper to run it on a smaller press. And the other advantage is that that red for that logo is going to be consistent if you print it one day to the next or on a different press, so you get really consistent color with it. Just a disadvantage though is that you don't get photographic quality. You don't get photograph reproduction, and it's hard to get exact spot colors on digital printing devices. Currently they're not making a lot of spot color for digital presses. So we can see here, there's the red and the black to form the logo. Is a 2-color job, we call that. That's a 2-color versus a 4-color job.